Don't forget, you can reach the latest episode of Potomac Watch anytime. Just ask your smart speaker, play the Opinion Potomac Watch podcast.
From the opinion pages of the Wall Street Journal, this is Potomac Watch.
Welcome back. Meanwhile, tonight, 4 Republican 2024 candidates will be gathered in Alabama for the 4th Republican primary debate. They are Ron DeSantis, governor of Florida, Nikki Haley, former governor of South Carolina, Vivek Ramaswamy, entrepreneur, and former New Jersey Governor Christie. There was some chatter in the media, even in the last few days, that Christie might not make the cut, the threshold to get into this debate. They'd raised it to 6% polling, but he made it at the last minute there. Monet, what do you expect from this debate, and particularly given the continued absence from all of these debates of the frontrunner in a campaign, Donald Trump? It seems like in previous debates, that has only created an incentive for the people on stage to go after each other instead of the guy who's leading the field. And I'm wondering if that's going to continue now.
Well, it seems like the focus is going to be on Nikki Haley in this debate. I think that coming out of the very first debate among the Republican primary candidates, Haley was seen as perhaps the best performer. She was very polished and very fluid. And she also was able to represent alternative to Trump that seemed upbeat, that seemed cheerful, and also communicate her position on abortion in particular in a way that I think resonated with a lot of voters in suggesting that a federal ban probably wasn't in the cards while still remaining strong on the issue. So these are some of the things that first started to garner her attention, particularly from the press. And it was an open question back then whether she would resonate with actual primary voters. At this point, the answer to that question seems to be yes. She has risen quite a lot in the early state polls and has come to rival Ron DeSantis as a potential default alternative to Trump for the many Republican primary voters who are going to be looking for that. And so as we approach January, when people are going to start actually going to the polls, I think that all of the other candidates are going to see her rise as the thing that they're most interested in seeing if they could stop or reverse. Perhaps they haven't attacked her quite as fiercely yet as they think that they can, and see if they can eat into some of that gain that she's been able to build up. So I think you'll see probably all 3 candidates who are going to be on stage with her taking swings at her. And another question, of course, is whether Trump is going to be more within the sights of the candidates than he's been thus far. As you mentioned, he's been absent from these debates, and he has been criticized here and there, particularly when the moderates specifically press the candidates about a position that he might have taken on a particular issue or about something in his presidency. But generally, the sense seems to be among these candidates that Republicans don't want to hear other Republicans griping about Trump. They want to really see these candidates presenting their own credentials. But because Trump's lead remains so commanding at this stage, it might become more urgent for them to start to say there's no way that we could actually get to the nomination without eating into some of that with some voters. And so that would be another thing to look for, whether the candidates are willing and able to actually make attacks on Trump that really get through to the audience.
But the time to do that, though, is running particularly short. We're now only a month and 9 days from the Iowa caucus. So voting is going to be beginning, I think, in a flash, particularly because in between then and now is Christmas, when a lot of voters are going to, I think, have other things on their minds and not be thinking about these political campaigns. But Bill, the other dynamic that we continue to see is a splitting of the vote of people who do not want to see Donald Trump as the Republican nominee in 2024, which was the same dynamic that allowed him to ride pluralities to the nomination in 2016. Just to check in with the Real Clear Politics average on these first 2 states in Iowa, it's Trump 47, Ron DeSantis 19, Nikki Haley 16. So DeSantis, the clear number 2, at least in the polling average in the state of Iowa. But then it flips in New Hampshire, where it's Trump 46, Nikki Haley 19, Christie 11, and then DeSantis 8. And so that is part of the problem here, too, for somebody who is trying to be the alternative to Donald Trump, is there are other candidates who are also trying to be the alternative to Donald Trump. And as we saw in 2016, they spend as much of their time attacking each other trying to get that one-on-one matchup that they eventually hope to come as they do attacking the leader in the field.
Yeah, I've come to the conclusion. I had thought Trump would not be the nominee. I also thought Biden would not be the nominee ultimately for different reasons. Now it looks like the primaries, I think Donald Trump, for example, is still in danger of being knocked out of the race, but I don't think that will come from other Republicans beating him. I think it might come from his legal troubles or any number of things going on in his life. There's so many potential landmines on his road to the nomination. So I think the debate, while unfair because Trump wouldn't give the other guys a chance to go up to him, it was a cold-blooded, smart decision not to debate. It looks like a sideshow. Yes, it elevated Nikki Haley, but I think that Trump's going to be the nominee unless someone else wins a primary. I don't think it's enough for someone to come in a surprise second or a strong third or something. I think a Republican who wants to be president has to actually beat Trump in several primaries, but most importantly in one of the early ones to get the momentum going into the later primaries. And I just don't see that happening. It could be because with Donald Trump, all the traditional rules are suspended and you never know what's going to come out of the woodwork and come out to become a factor. But I see the debates being reduced to a kind of sideshow.
Thank you, Bill. Thank you, Monet. And thank you all for listening. You can email us at pwpodcast@wsj.com. If you like the show, please hit that subscribe button. And we'll be back tomorrow with another edition of Potomac Watch.